we don't they approach the end of our full JavaScript programming course for Pidgin. We don't cover a lot already, but it remains two key things where I want maybe understand before we round up these two things now. Classes and APIs. Everything we don't learn already don't even make you a strong JavaScript programmer. But you no fit call yourself a programmer until you understand classes and API, especially in JavaScript, because now the foundation, now the backbone of a lot of things we would do with these programming languages. So within the classes for JavaScript, a class, man, like a blueprint where you think they create many objects, we get the same structure. We don't already talk about classes here and there, but really low. For instance, this person object, now example of an instance of a class. Yes, classes just be like the ancestors of objects. Now them go shape how objects go look so that all of our objects feel they consistent if they belong to the same class, if they get the same property. So for instance, this example of a person object, he gets the following key value pairs to save data about this specific person. And then we get another dog objects. We get these following key value pairs. We get so many instances of this kind of key value pairs. What do I mean by that? This person object now, if it be our person one object, and then we get another person two object with the same key value pairs, and then we get another person three object with the same key value pairs. From merely looking at all of these objects, we go now say they get things in common, right? Because they reflect the same kind of information about things will fall inside the same class. So all of these objects, we group them inside their own class. Even these dog, you consider these three dog objects we get, all of them get the same key value pairs because they reflect the same information but about different instances of one class. We create the class they all belong to so that it go dey easier for us to create more instances of these objects. So you think of class as machine where they specify how your objects go look, a blueprint where they allow you create as many instances of a class through as many objects as possible. For instance, now for our person objects, we put all of these person 1, person 2, and person 3 inside the same class. So like this, we will create a class for JavaScript. We go first write the keyword class, followed by the name where you won't call your class. And then you open curly bracket and you write the constructor keyword. This constructor now, they say if we want create our objects we belong to this class, we create as many as possible thanks to this simple construction function. We did the layout, the blueprint of all the other objects we could belong to this class. Then as the argument of your constructor function, you go write the properties where you want make all your objects will fall into this class, the properties where you want make them have. And then for our example now, the key value pairs, the keys, the properties of all the objects we belong to this class. Now, name, age, and city. So we go provide these properties as arguments, and then inside our curly brackets for the construction function, we go write this.name equal to name, this.age equal to age, and this.city equal to city. Now, what we dey talk now say whenever we want initiate any object in this class, and I will show you an example of how we go initiate the object very soon. But we'll thought say whenever we want initiate any object, we just pass in 3 argument parameters, and this argument will be passed into the function, go serve as the name, age, and the city. The first argument go serve as the name. Now, what in this dot name equal to name mean? The second one will serve as the age, and the third one could serve as the city. You see, say after each key value pair with the end and with semicolon, this one they important inside class. Na color we dey use inside the object itself, but inside the constructor function for the class, you will use semicolon. So now, to create a new object wey belong to this person class, we no need to start to dey write the key value pairs manually like this. No, we go just use this construction function wey we don already get. We go do am like this. We go initialize our variable to be equal to, and then we write the keyword new person. That is, we dey create a new instance of this class, a new object that belong to this class, and then the name of the class, and then you will come pass in the arguments which will serve as the key properties in your class, which is the name, the age, and the city. So we go pass in today, 25, and Lagos. So automatically, we don't create a new object called person one be this. And now, if we console log this person one, we go see say the data inside could be like this. Out of these key value pairs, we don't create them easily with just this single line of code, thanks to our class and the constructor function what we don't already write for here. We fit can also easily decorate more people now with just one line, thanks to the constructor function. So if you want get person 2, instead of writing all of the key value pairs from scratch, you could just do it by passing in the right argument. So now our person 2 go automatically get this data, this object inside, and then we fit write person 3, person 4, and so on very easily. And one more thing where I want make you notice now, say, is this our person class? We get function inside. As I take the objects, fit also get functions inside them. So within this one, the talk now say for our function greet. Whenever we create a new object with this constructor function, it go also automatically inherit this function of greet. So we should call this function on this object by saying person1 dot greet. And wetin this one go do now, say e go also log the name of the person. E go use an greet. My name is, then to use whatever value they inside the name property, and then it go say I am, then it go use this age variable. Let's good. And I live in, then it go use the city property. Any object wey we create for this class, mine go get this greet function. We dey call any function wey belong to a class with a caller method. So all of our instances of these objects will belong to this class. All of them go inherit this function. So we fit to person2.greet, person3.greet, person4.greet, and each of them will correctly greet using their own name, their own age, and their own city. Now, I want make you try and do an exercise by yourself. I want make you create a new class and a constructor function for our dog objects to create a class dog, so that we go fit create more objects that belong to this class dog, more dogs, easily without having to write their key value pairs from scratch. Like this, we dey do am. Our constructor function get 3 properties. We also get 2 functions in this class. You see say the first function, we just dey console log the name of whatever object we create in this class as a string, and then the dog name to say woof woof. And the second one, they give us the info about our dog. You go use the name of the dog, you go use the 8 years old, and then the breed. So now we fit use this constructor function, this class we don't create now for our dog class, to create several new objects, several new dogs with their own unique information. So we go use const dog want, or whatever variable you want, to create new dog, and then we go pass in our arguments to reflect the specific instance, the specific dog will be the create. And this dog now will automatically be able to use these 2 functions. If we call my dog dot back, it go say body says back. And if we call my dog dot info, it will say body is a 3-year-old golden retriever. You don't already understand classes in JavaScript, how we take the use them create more objects, how we take the use them create objects easily, how we take the use them create objects to get the same information, so that our code could be cleaner and less prone to error, but we still get so many things where we get for classes in JavaScript. There is too much to learn. Things like static and private methods, static data, how to share these classes and objects in your code, or how to keep them private. But all of these ones, they're beyond the scope of our course. You fit research them on your own, but now quite advanced thing. So no rush, no need to rush for now. You don't know enough to move on. Now we go move on to APIs. Wetin be APIs for JavaScript? API na application programming interface. Na the way wey your code dey talk to another system or service. When JavaScript programmers dey talk about API, most of the time dem dey simply refer to how they connect to other applications, maybe other database or other websites or other platforms to fetch important data wey dem fit use anywhere in your project. With APIs, you fit even connect to your own back end and then get the data wey you store for your database. And then you fit also expose your data to other people so that themselves go fit fetch your data through your API, or themselves fit expose their API to you so that you go fit fetch some data or do some things with their data on your own website. Yes, some people they charge for their API and some people they make am available free of charge. For instance, weather apps, they get data concerning the temperature immediately and other weather conditions. If you dey build something, we need data from weather services. You fit easily connect to their API and get their data. Now, one of the many importance of APIs to this. The most common API we get for JavaScript, we get for programming in general, we dey call am RESTful API. This RESTful API, they allow us to do four main things. We fit use them to collect data, we fit use them to save data, and we fit use them to delete data. Saving data get two ways. You fit save data where you never get, and you fit update data. Now, there are several methods where you fit use to connect to API for JavaScript, but the most popular na the fetch method, wey we dey call the fetch API. You will use this fetch to connect to an API with fetch. Now, like this with the writer, you go write your fetch, then you go write the endpoint of that API, which is like the address of that API where you dey connect to. And then you go write these two dots then. These two dots then will first take in the data wey they send to you. Now, the data wey they send to you na with this response. You will take this data and it will convert them to JSON. And then this JSON line be this data now for the next dot. Then you go come fit do anything you want with them inside these curly braces. Then we dey get this new line dot cat. This dot cat we dey take am cat error. So you go first run wetin dey this up. This fetch dot then and dot then. But if you get error instead of the data, for this dot catch area, then you go catch the error. And if you do anything you want with this error message with the send back to you too, you fit take no specific things wey dey wrong with your request. This kind of API call, or what we dey call get request, we dey use and collect data from an API. But like I tell you, APIs no be to collect data only. You fit also use them store, update, and delete data. For now, knowing how to fetch data dey enough, and this knowledge dey enough for you to use at the beginner level. For the intermediate level, you go come start to dey understand wetin we dey call asynchronous programming, which is why we get this dot then and dot then after we fetch our data from the API. Then you go need to understand error handling, like this catch block wey we get, and try and catch in general. This one too dey beyond the scope of our courses, but I go dey make a different video for my channel where I will explain APIs and fetch method in more detail. I will even tell you the alternative wey we get, the alternative to this fetch method. Finally, for our course, the last thing wey I want may we take a look at na how we dey structure our file for JavaScript. You see, whenever you dey write code, for any programming language, you go dey write a lot of functions. You go dey work with a lot of data. You no fit just write everything on one page inside one file. No, because imagine for one project now, you get so many user data, so many functions where they do so many different things, so many classes, so many objects, so many arrays, and you put them all for one page. It go this very hard for you to keep up, for you to even understand within the go on. And if you leave your code for a few months, by the time when you come back yourself, you know we even understand within the happen. Now, why we need to be able to write our code in different files but still be able to use them all in one place. Now, where would they use import and export statements for JavaScript be that? So that we go fit to write our code in one file and still be able to use them somewhere else. For instance, now in this our example, I get my user data. These my users will they use our application and I get their data on this page. This data now I'm arraying containing objects will contain the information of the users. I also get functions where they use do different things. Like these first category of functions now, they use them, they find things. You no need to worry about within the functions they do exactly their logic. So I was gonna say these functions they use them, they find things just to find and retrieve without changing the data in any way. Then I also get this category of functions. These ones they use them to change things, to modify things on the page. With all of them on the same page like this, my program go dey very stuffy. You know if it's really read am. If another programmer coming, they know if it's read am. If we want change some features in the future, it go dey very hard for us to navigate and find the right things. Now, why we go guys break them down into different files be that. Now, I first separate my code into different files and use them in the same place through import and export to export any code for JavaScript so that if you use them for another place, you go use the export keyword. So we go create a new file. We go call them retrieval.js. And inside this file, we will get our functions. We will take the retrieve things. Before the function keyword for each of our function, we go write the export keyword like this. So within this one they do now say they make sure say all of these functions we get export keyword before then. All of them we fit use up on another page in another file. However, if we not add this export keyword, we no fit use up. If you don't want the right export every time before your function, you fit write the function normally and then export everything as an object at the end, at the bottom of the page. So we go write up like this. We go come create another file. Now, this file will be for all of our functions we will use to change things. We go call this file modify.js and then we go also export everything like this. And then for all our data, our lizard data, the array we contain the objects of our lizard data. We will also create a page for them. And yes, you will also need to export this data as well. If you get variables, objects, or arrays, anything where you get for your JavaScript pages with the color JavaScript modules, you must export them using export keyword so that you go fit use them for another page. So this array of objects containing our lizard data, we go export them out. We go put export in front of our variable like this. We fit also write the export down like we do if we get plenty objects or arrays where we want export. So after we export all of our function and data, we fit now start to the work on R for different file. This file we will call them index.js. Index.js now the standard when all JavaScript programmers they use to name their launch file, the main file where they contain the functions where they go user with the light index.js so that everybody understands the standard. So now if you get job for one company now and they enter their code base for the first time, you know we need to start the ask which one be the main file. You go know that index.js na indica file where we say go run the program, go run all the main functions where you get. So now to use all of our functions and all of our data, we go lead to first import. I tell you, to use them outside, you go need to export them. But now, if you don't go with that place where you will use them, you go need to import them. You know fit import something where you never export. So to import, you go write down like this: import, open curly braces and close curly braces. Then inside you go write the name of the functions or object or anything where you don't export, where you want import for here. Then you go need to say where you did import them from. So you go write from, and then you go specify the path of the file where you want import something from. You go do am like this. One of the reasons why VS Code and other good code editors, they very important, and because they fit give you suggestions of all the path of all your files and modules where you want use, so that you no go need to the writer from scratch. And if you want to write them from scratch, if you write them too, and if you make mistakes, these editors go tell you, say you don't make mistake, and they go correct you. Now we go import all of our functions where we get in the file for retrieving, which is the retriever.js file, and then all of our functions really get for the modify, which is the modify.js file, and finally all of our data we call data.js. So now all of these functions and all of this data, we go fit easily use them inside this file, and it go there smooth and clean. You know, go there jam packed like it did before. Typically, when it comes to importing, wetin we do now na the common way to do am and the simple way. But if you want rename specific functions or any data where you import, if you want rename them, if you just write them with this as keyword, so you go say import this as this. So now anywhere for your code, instead of writing this, you go write this, because this one logo what again, you don't remain this function essentially. And what you they talk with that, because you don't import them not as itself as we do before, but you don't import them as this where you don't change them to. So now this you must always write anywhere where you want to use this function. Finally, I want to tell you about export default for your JavaScript modules. This export default, they very popular for React and other framework. It was them everywhere. They know they just export normally, then they export default. So how is this one different from the normal export? The different now say export default, they allow you to be able to use any main immediately you dey import that thing. For instance, let's say I dey export this function in this file. I will call an example.js. Let's say I dey import this function into our file. Now I tell you so to import, I gotta use the name inside this curly braces. However, if I export them as default, then I fit simply import them using any name whatsoever, because since we don't already specify, say this na the default function when we want export, the program will automatically know which to import for this file. If we name anything, if we know write the name, so it will just automatically go to the default one, because we don't set and say at this one, these people they import if they import this file. So we fit write any name we want to import that, as long as we specify the right location. Then you must also know, say, you fit get plenty functions for your files. That for this example.js file, even if we get plenty functions inside, we fit export the other function normally, but export this one as default and it will still work. But to import all these other ones where we export normally, we must write their names correctly. To import this one where we make the default, we feel import them as any name. And now this don't bring us to the end of our JavaScript course. You self don't try. You try. You don't try. You deserve round of applause. You don't learn a lot. You don't learn everything when you need to know to call yourself a proper JavaScript developer in training. Because now you know the raw materials of JavaScript, but to call yourself a proper full JavaScript developer, you need to know how to do things, how to build projects, whether create websites, create web apps, create backend, APIs, anything with JavaScript. And for this one now, you need to learn JavaScript, DOM, manipulation, and you also need to learn a framework or library like React. But the good news now, say I still get all of these courses for my pace. So you fit still learn very easily with Pidgin and understand these things better than you go understand if they learn now any other way. For now, the JavaScript DOM courses and the React courses, na for paid users, but the money small. With shinkily money, you go get access to our paid courses, including this JavaScript done and React project, but other projects too, where I dey build trees and I dey show you how to build big thing so that you sef go level up your programming skill. For now, congratulations, you don complete JavaScript. See you in the next course. Thank you for your attention to this matter.